Hello. Here I am with a couple of books by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. Um, Boys Ranch and Fighting American. These were published by Marvel Comics. Not originally, but these hardcovers were produced 1989 here for Fighting American. And this is kind of a team effort. Greg Theakston and Pure Imagination Publishing worked on some of the restoration, and Marvel publishes. Now the sticker price on this, $36 back in 1989. So it's probably a $100 book today for a trim hardcover. Kind of in the Marvel Masterworks or DC Archives format. Embossed cover, but otherwise nothing too special about it. I do think these are pretty nicely designed, slick looking books, especially for Marvel, who's kind of had notoriously bad design over their history. So Fighting American clearly is a callback to Captain America, the most famous creation of Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. And this is from 1954. And Fighting American, first off, the art, you can clearly see Kirby there, but the mixture of Simon and Kirby creates something wholly different from Kirby's art by himself. Their styles really melded, and they created a style that looks like it's a distinct cartoonist. Like I said, you can see the Kirby. It's in there for sure, but Simon's inks over Kirby gives it a different feel. And obviously, this is from 54. The Golden Age isn't too far before this, but you can already see how much more clear the pages are, how much better the lettering is. I mean, Golden Age comics have that rough feel to them. So this is sort of not quite the Silver Age yet, but and that's a great image right there. That looks fantastic. But I read these when I was a teenager. I got a hold of these books. I'm certain I didn't pay $36 for them. And I remember really enjoying these Fighting American. Fighting American is not as well regarded as Boys Ranch, but I remember thinking they were pretty funny, really enjoying the action. Another great splash page here. Just very good stuff. I mean, look at this great villain double header. Kind of straight out of Dick Tracy, but with a Kirby touch. So here we get into a page. This looks like it could totally be out of 60s Marvel. That could be Captain America fighting Batroc the Leaper. Just a great Kirby head smash, tumbling, somersaulting. Yeah, and the further along you get in here, the more it looks like what you'll associate with Kirby in less than a decade. But yeah, a lot of the villains are kind of grotesque, goofy. And obviously without Stan Lee's self-seriousness, it's just a completely different vibe. But yeah, these are fun comics for sure. And I'm not sure if they've been reprinted since. I know that Rob Liefeld did a version of Fighting American at one point, and there may have been more that I'm missing, or to be honest, not missing. But I do wish somebody would reprint these, even if they don't go for this, sort of deluxe format. They're fun comics in an important period of Kirby that isn't really remembered. I think people just think of the big sort of sludgy monsters, and he was doing kind of slick work. Boys Ranch, once again, little embossed cover, very nice looking book. Certificate of Authenticity, signed by Joe Simon. So, yeah, this one doesn't even have a price on it, so I wonder if I got this from some sort of book club or something. Honestly, have no memory how I came to acquire this. So, also involved Mort Meskin, Marvin Stein. I'm not familiar with Marvin Stein. Mort Meskin was a terrific artist. The editor of this was Tom Brevoort, who is still an editor at Marvel. Somehow he has managed to survive all these years. Has an introduction by Jim Simon, Joe Simon's son. And I believe that Joe Simon may have held the rights to these characters. I'm not sure how that worked, and I'm not sure if Kirby got screwed out of it, but he probably did. So anyway, this comic, The Kid Cowboys of Boys Ranch. And I'm not sure what year these are from. 1950, so even a few years earlier than Fighting American. Just out of the Golden Age. Technically, these would be considered, I guess, Atomic Age comics, the EC Age. Look at that fantastic image. And Kirby was he was working in comics the whole time, but once again, this is kind of an almost lost era, because so much of that material is just sort of not owned by the major publishers now. And this stuff, I just love the art here. I'm sure Kirby would not have been slick enough to have worked for EC. But my own personal bias, I think he's as good as anyone who worked for EC. And he's a hell of a storyteller. And one thing about these, like I said about Fighting American, these are really easy to read, fun to read comics. Lots of words here, so they're packing it in the pages, but Kirby sure does go for it in all the panels. I mean, you might have these little panels, but they're packed with action. Yeah. So, the theme of, Kirby had kids doing things. Oh, look at this, how to ride a horse. I wonder if Kirby even knew how to ride a horse. Great 2-page pinup here. But, he had kid gangs who do things many times over the years. That was a recurring thing for him to go back to. And so having these kids, this young boy, Angel, who's a slick gunfighter. So, and also with the long hair and other long-time Kirby trope. So, these lack even a little bit of the polish Fighting American did. I wonder if some of that might just be because of reproduction, trying to recreate these in a modern format. But the cartooning sure is lively. It's beautiful stuff. Not sure about the coloring. I don't know how accurate it is to the original. It does remind me a bit of the EC reprints in the early 90s. And I'm not sure how accurate those were either, but makes me think that this might hew a bit closer to the original look. I don't know how much of the... I don't know if they had to shoot this from the comics themselves or if they had any sort of film. I'm sure they didn't have the original art, but look at this great 2-page spread here. A real Kirby specialty. And I wonder how many people were doing this sort of thing back then. Probably more than I think, but it is this sort of wide open vista is not something we associate with that era. I'm certain that these comics today would not pass muster as far as political correctness towards First Nations peoples. But I do not remember them being disrespectful in any way. But obviously, Simon and Kirby were of their time, so it's almost inevitable that they're not going to have the most enlightened, sensitive approach. I know I keep pointing out the big pictures, but they're really breathtaking. Kirby just had a knack for composition of pages. Even pages like these, which are just 6-panel story pages. He sure keeps things moving. You know, this panel here of a guy just getting punched in the face, the gun suspended in air. I don't know. Kirby's storytelling, to me, is just top-notch. He keeps things moving. So, anyway, Boys Ranch. This stuff's really well regarded. Always has been. As far as I know, this stuff has not been reprinted since this publication, which clearly would not have sold a ton of copies at the time. For one thing, this format would have eliminated a lot of people right off the bat. They're not going to spend this kind of money on a deluxe hardcover. And second of all, when this happened, let me see, what year did they actually release this? Is it 89? 91. So this material predates the Fighting American, but this book actually came out after the Fighting American book. So, you know, that wasn't an era where Kirby was at his apex as far as popular regard. The Image guys would really help push Kirby back into the spotlight, I think, and more and more people began to reevaluate his work, and his quirks became appreciated rather than put down. But I think these are both very good comics that are really worthy of a reprint. I would love to see... I know Fantagraphics has reprinted some of the Simon and Kirby romance comics. And I know that in old interviews, I remember Gary Groth speaking approvingly of Boys Ranch. I don't know. I don't know if it's possible to get this reprinted, but I feel like now would be the time to find an audience for it. Especially if it was in a less exclusive format, a little more accessible to people. But no idea how realistic that is, no idea how tied up the rights may be. Don't know what Joe Simon may have done with those rights. But anyway, these are a couple of, I don't know that they're rarities, but certainly scarce objects. And I just wanted to show them off. So thank you.